welcome to the Durham Talents Channel. My name is Jesse Durham. Today I'm really excited. This has been a long time in the making. I've got a friend and a colleague, a real good buddy, and a wealth of knowledge, somebody that I've gone to over the years in the past, real wealth of knowledge about infinite banking. My good friend Jonah, I hope that you enjoy. Jonah, this has been a while in the making. Like I said, we're so busy with things sometimes that I felt bad in not making this happen sooner because we're around each other.
We're here now.
Right.
We're here now. Also, you don't hype me up too much. You're making me nervous that I won't have the answers to the question. Don't give me, is this a pop quiz?
Okay. All right. Good question. I have recently started adding rapid fire questions at the end. So I'm really interested to see what your answers are going to be. No pop quiz, but I'm going to have some rapid fire personality questions. So, I know some things. I'd like you to say some things, obviously, for everybody. You and I have known each other for over 10 years now. Sometimes I forget that we're maybe not quite as much of peers as we are age-wise. I'm a bit older than you are. And I mention that because even with what you said jokingly about having all the answers, you are a wealth of knowledge. You and I have chopped it up over the years about, hey, have you read this book? Have you started doing this? Family meetings, this, just all different kinds of stuff just as guys that have implemented infinite banking that know each other, right? But professionally, you've also been a wealth of knowledge in the space. But if you would, reverse back take me back in time and everybody that's seen you for the first time, Jonah Dew from South Carolina, anything like you, just family life, upbringing, whatever.
Sure. I'll go back to the beginning, all right?
Yep.
So I'm a younger guy, I guess, 92 when I came on the scene. So
I was already in the second grade. See that?
Well, that's what happened. But no, my family was military. That's what I was born into. So we had lots of movement, lots of moving when I was young and things like that. We had a passing in the family pretty early on, my father. And so my mom, single mom, and for a while, ended up being remarried. And my stepfather is ministry. So military and ministry. If you put those two together, what that means for everybody out there who might not know is that we were broke. That's what that means. Broke. So now, again, we did not have a broken mentality, which is a lot of testament to mom, actually, right? And so we did lots of things. I remember I did all the sports growing up and all of the extracurriculars that I wanted to do. I never really knew that we didn't have any money. There's signs, sometimes. You're like, oh, we're broke. Everyone else can do a little more, have a little more. But so that's kind of how we grew up. When I finished school, I actually was trying to play sport in high school, going into college. So I bounced around a little in the college atmosphere, trying to do that. But when so I didn't finish college at a traditional school. I actually ran out of money. Mom and dad couldn't help me pay for it. We didn't have money, right? So I ran out of money, moved home, ended up finishing my degree online, that sort of thing. Met my wife.
What was the major? What did you study?
So I switched around a lot, but I finished with business administration. So I ended up finishing online, and then basically, I kid you not, mom called and they said, hey, they have good jobs down here. There's a bank that's opening up. They got good jobs. Come down here and get one. And so I, mom called and said they got good jobs. So I went and got a job at that bank. Turns out I was a pretty good bank employee salesman. I ended up winning a few awards over there. Not really my goal or intention. I'm more of a just work hard because I'm supposed to work hard.
I was going to ask, how did that happen that, you didn't have any prior experience? That's the first job. And
yeah, legitimately. Grew up with a bunch of odd end jobs, mowing the lawns, following my older brothers around, doing all the handiwork and little things like that. But really that first big boy job, I just work hard. I mean, that's what we were taught coming up, work hard. So I just worked hard. And it was fine. I liked the bank. I knew it wasn't my calling. It was not, you go into those meetings and they're like, where do you see yourself in 5 years in our organization? And my mind is going, not in the organization, folks. But I don't say that to, the bosses. I'm like, well, it might be nice to move up the corporate ladder and become the branch executive, But no, I knew it wasn't my calling. So a lot of the colleagues that I had at the bank were actually leaving the bank to go work for an insurance company that opened up in town. And so I called a few people. How's it going over there at the insurance company? They were like, great. It's the same thing we were doing at the bank, basically, but it's more money. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going over to the insurance company. So I did that. Same deal. Worked really hard. Ended up winning a few awards and trips and bonuses and that sort of fun thing. And that's actually when I was introduced to infinite banking. So that, like, how crazy of that coming together, that story. My only 2 big boy jobs were at the bank and at the insurance company when someone finally introduced me to the infinite banking concept, using whole life insurance as a personal bank. And so it really just made sense when I saw it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. These are the only 2 things I know, basically, right, out in the corporate America type world. And I just found something that not everybody knows that I'm really interested in, that I want to start to implement. You know, maybe this is where I should be. So that's my...
Okay, put a pin in that time, that point in the timeline then for me, because I got a few more questions right there.
Okay.
So I think I kind of cut you short. Met Chantel in college?
I did.
Was that what you
met Chantel in college, yep.
So you were already married man, worked a couple of jobs when you saw infinite banking.
That is not correct.
Okay.
I was dating Chantel
okay.
At that time that I saw infinite banking. Not married, not engaged, nothing.
All right, that's what I was trying to... All right, so because I'm trying to get in that mindset of, okay, family life's just you, but you're dating, courting. I mean, you got young kids now.
Yep.
That's the word I'm using.
That's fine.
Okay.
We were, if we use the slang, we were talking. We were in the talking stages.
Well, depends on who's saying. We would have been going out.
Okay.
I don't know where.
Yeah. I'm saying what they say today. They're talking.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's a funny evolution over time. So there you are, having had experience in 2 very relevant fields, albeit in the traditional sense of commercial banking and insurance generically. So I love knowing at that point in time then, when you're exposed to infinite banking, what were the exact things that went through your mind that you can recall to where you thought, okay, that thing, because you said it made sense to you. What made sense to you? And then maybe what still didn't make sense right away that you worked through?
Yep. It's a good question. So I think a few things played a part into me taking a liking to and interest into infinite banking right away. One of those was the person who introduced it to us had credibility in my mind, and that's a big deal. Yep. So the person who introduced it to myself and my brother right around the same time had credibility, had things that I was seeking after that I wanted. I knew that this person was well off. I knew that this person had money freedom, time freedom. Like, I knew that. And so when he says, oh, I do this is actually, I mean, legitimately, these are very, very close to his own words. You should read this book. It was Becoming Your Own Banker. This book is very important. I've read it lots of times, and he got really serious when he said it. So if you've got credibility and that's how you introduce it to someone, we talk about that sometimes. Like, if you want to talk to your spouse or your kids or your parents, like, get serious. Don't they know who you are, so you got to change a little bit to say, this is important to me and I really want to talk to you about it. But that's what he did. So now I'm going into the infinite banking experience, meeting, learning, going, I need to pay attention to this. I want to pay attention to this. And so when he started talking, now infinite banking is a little tricky to get right away. So saying I got the whole thing right away is incorrect. I did not. But what I did get is whole life insurance is around for your whole life. It's actually one of the only, if not the only, guaranteed insurance product. And cash value is the liquid equity of the death benefit. And we are designing policies so you can spend it. And that was basically enough for me. I've talked about it before, just a little bit on here and there. Like, I worked really hard at these couple jobs, and like I mentioned, I did pretty well. And I saved up what I thought was a bunch of money, $10,000, $20,000. Again, keep in mind, I'm 32 now, so I'm like 23, 24, even younger than that, actually, because I got married at 24. So I'm 21, 22. So a 21-year-old having $15,000 in the bank is more than my friends have. Like, it is more than my friends have. And so
if I were your friend, then you would have had more money than me at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. But I never spent it because I was like, I worked so hard to put that in there. I'm not doing things. My friends would be like, let's go do this, $1,000. And I'd be like, no chance, you know? So I didn't spend it. And so this idea of being able to now save my money, but still spend insurance company cash value, I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm in, because I legitimately have I just had a brain thing with spending the money I worked for. I was like, it took me too long to get it. I'm not going to just spend it.
Okay, one more follow-up question right there, because it occurs to me in the moment. Your philosophy about money now, do you have, is it hard for you to spend money now?
It's still
pretty strong?
Still tough. It's still tough. I do a little bit better because I know I can spend cash value, but it's still tough. I don't actually like spending money. I got to change my mindset a little bit to I'm not spending, I'm using someone else's money in order to earn more, right? So I got to change my mindset, but I still have this thing about and let me be super clear. I do spend money on smaller things. I'm pretty good at that. I'm happy to go out to lunch and dinner and spend $50. No big deal. But anytime it's 4 digits, 5 digits, 6 digits, I'm like, I got to think about this.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Because there's so much emotion and philosophy and thinking, and good or bad or mixed bag, around it.
Yep.
That the pendulum could be swung too far one way or the other. I would have been the opposite. I would have been the spender. Didn't mind working hard, but I did spend it all. So I worked hard so that I could spend it all. So that's just interesting to me. And I think that's another reason why your perspective is interesting. So thanks for the reminder of putting me in the mindset of where I was at in my early 20s is interesting for me to think about, and I know it'll be interesting for a lot of other people to think about. I agree. I had that same experience as far as the introduction goes of I knew it was serious. I knew it was good just because of who the invite came from. I felt very thankful. I was like, oh, I got invited? Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And I got to see what it was. Okay. So then maybe what did you still have to work through? What were maybe some of the follow-up epiphanies? Yeah, tell me about the struggle. Anything that was a sticking point for you.
Sure. Well, again, I didn't understand it right away. So I remember the absolute very first thing that I needed to do with my infinite banking policy was purchase a car, because my car just died. Now, again, let me set the stage for you. I am legitimately 22, 23 years old. I've never bought a new car. My very first car I bought off my older brother for $200, and I went to my mom complaining that I had to give him $200 because he got the car for free. And I knew he got the car for free, and he charged me $200, and I was so upset. So this is the cars I'm driving. $200. I think my next one was $1,200. The car I went all the way through college with, $1,200. And if you think it ran well, it did not. So my $1,200 car dies, and I just got started with my policy. So of course, I'm thinking, oh, we got this new policy. Maybe I can buy the car of my dreams. No, right? And so the very first thing I needed to do was purchase this car. I ended up finding a car that I believe was $4,000. And my very first policy I started was a $5,000 full annual premium. So what that means is my cash value was not $4,000 right out of the gate. And so that confused me right there. Well, I've seen examples. I've heard people use these policies to buy cars. I'd like to do that. I don't understand the steps now because I do need a car. What do I do? And it wasn't so much not knowing that my money wasn't enough. It was like, I don't know the process. Am I supposed to use it for half? Am I supposed to finance I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I actually made a call, and no, I told my brother that. My brother made the call, and a good friend of ours actually responded. And so my brother comes back the next day and says, hey, he said you're supposed to actually go finance the car, then take all the cash value, put it on the bill if you have it, and then work really hard to get your cash value up to pay the car off. And I went, oh, great, then I'll do that. Okay. But I actually didn't even, the very first thing I wanted to do with infinite banking, I actually didn't even ask the question. My brother asked the question of someone who knew the infinite banking concept for me, and that's what I got the relay information. I did that.
All right, so a couple of things occur to me there. I'll try and say them so I remember them. One is the accessibility to somebody who had an answer. Like
Yep.
now that there could have been more than one way to answer that question.
Yep.
There are several that are occurring to me. I know they're occurring to you. So the access to somebody who could give you an answer, a good answer,
Yep.
right? Because it's the infinite banking concept. You can do it different ways, but at least you had somebody who said, well, yeah, I've done this before. You could do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing maybe that I'd like you to talk about. And then the other is, let's go ahead and tackle that point of illiquidity versus loss of value.
Sure.
So you paid $5,000 in premium.
Yep.
No loss of value. There's a much larger death benefit, obviously, ready and in place that day.
Yep.
There was a guaranteed cash value, but it wasn't 100%
Yep.
what the premium was. So anything that you'd like to say there, knowing what you know now for people who, because there are the conventional financial folks out there that would beat people over the head with that and say, see there, if you'd have just had that money under the mattress, in a savings account, in a money market, in a whatever, you could have gone out and used 100% of your money. Why would
Exactly. Yeah, so you asked 2 or 3 questions. I'll answer the last one first because that's the one that I spoke about even on my story coming up on how I thought and viewed about money. That plays the biggest part. I went into the situation, I do not like spending my own money.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like it. I know a lot of people out there are probably very similar to me. You work really hard, you save it up, and then it's like, I worked so hard to save this up. I don't like using it like that. Like if I've got $10,000 in the bank, I never spend 10, 9, 8, 7. Now, you might be able to convince me for 2 or 3 or 4 in a cool thing or deal, but I'm not spending. I just won't do it. I work too hard for the money. And so that's my mentality going in. And so getting my brain wrapped around the $5,000 that I paid stays with me and I still have it and I'm spending someone else's is the biggest epiphany. I used to call cash value spendable cash when I first got started. Sometimes I still get made fun of by the people who knew me 10 years ago saying that because I didn't have spendable cash. I had cash, I didn't have spendable cash. I don't like spending things. And so all of a sudden I had cash value and I literally used to call it, well, now I have spendable cash. So I was ready and willing to spend the cash value to get the car. I had never financed anything in my life before I financed that vehicle also. So again, I'm 22 or something and I go and get a $4,000 financing thing. That's just a big deal for me coming from I've never financed anything. So I'm like, do I know what I'm doing? And there's paperwork. And so that was my first introduction also to, man, they ask you for every piece of paper you have in the file cabinet, literally every one to get $2,000. It sounds so funny now, but at the time I was like going through the hoops and the process. Am I doing it right? What am I doing? Is mom going to be super mad at me if she figures out I did this? You know, I'm finally an adult and I went and financed something immediately out of the gate, you know? And so that was, that's big for me. Understanding that it's using the insurance company's money. That's huge. The second thing is having someone available to go ask the question to. Mm-hmm. Big deal. We try to do that now for anyone that we help with infinite banking. Like, you got to know you can come to us and answer the question or ask your question, and that will help you get an answer to your question. And I think that's so big. Don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. You're not going to go anywhere. And it doesn't matter what the thing is you're trying to learn or implement. If you feel like you're on an island by yourself, you're probably going to give up, right? I bet you if we really went to Google it and looked at out there or wherever we could find it, that they'd say things like trapped on a deserted island by yourself last X amount of days, but trapped on a deserted island with someone, and I bet you it's more than double because you've got someone to talk to and someone to bounce ideas off of and company. So that's big when you're learning something new. I don't exactly know how it works, but I know I can ask X, this person. Yep. For sure. Okay, cool. All right, thanks for tackling those things because we do have this dual perspective now, and I'm trying to get both from you and kind of at the same time, what's your personal walk with infinite banking, what's your professional walk, and we've got this philosophy because you've been doing this for several years. That's right.
And you've got this philosophy. We've got this philosophy of being here with people's children and their grandchildren and just real long-range approach when it comes to that. So helping people, working with people.
Yep.
How about then from the point where you see the presentation, get whatever questions answered,
okay.
Any last things that you worked through before you paid the premium? I mean, you already talked about the first thing that you financed, but anything right there, hesitations, reservations?
Yeah, no hesitations or reservations. I was denied for my very first policy. I don't know if you know that. I had a speeding ticket from my college days.
I do now that you say that.
That was upgraded to a reckless driving in a state that I don't live in. I also didn't go to college here at that time.
Reckless young man.
So I didn't know I had that. So I got a call from my agent who said, hey, you've got reckless driving. I kid you not. The first words out, hello, this is Jonah. That's why I pick up the phone. He says, hey, you've got reckless driving. No, I don't. And he was like, yes, you do. So they denied your policy. We have to use a different company. Oh, okay. What, should I do something? Nope. I was just calling to let you know. But you might want to check into that reckless driving because you've got one. Oh, okay. And then the call ended. So now here I go Googling like crazy. How would I have this? And actually at that moment, I was a pretty fast driver actually in college, so I had lots of tickets. At that moment, went out to the car, opened the glove box to get the stack of citations that I have accumulated, and I was like, oh, this one totally. So
your reluctance to pay for anything included speeding tickets.
Yeah. So there's totally one in there that I forgot about for sure. So anyway, no buyer's remorse though. I remember getting started. So my brother and I tried to start at the same time, same company, same time, but I got denied. So now I'm starting a month later, but I had someone close to me that was starting. And so it was a lot, and no buyer's remorse because I had someone that was already doing it kind of right in front of me that I could go access and look at. I do remember lots of conversations where we would pull up the policy illustrations and we would try to read them ourselves. And did not know what we were reading. So I definitely thought that these policies generated way more money year after year. I didn't realize you have to do some math sometimes to separate the years. So I definitely was like, wow, $5,000 turns into $250,000. And, I didn't realize you have to do some math sometimes. Mm-hmm. I remember those conversations. Those were fun. But no real buyer's remorse or anything like that. I was excited to get started. Honestly, as I look back, I wish I got started with more money.
Sure.
But at the time, I put in what I had, actually.
What about conversations with other people, whether it was brother, other friends, you mentioned other friends, Chantel, mom, what were conversations like early on?
Yeah, at that moment, so when I first got my first policy started, it started in May, and I was engaged by the end of May.
Okay.
So I was having conversations with my now fiance. I mean, my policy might even be dated May 15th, that very first one. And I was engaged on May 23rd, maybe 24th. So I've only had this thing 2 weeks by the time I'm engaged. So I was talking to her about it. But it was more like, I know enough, not everything, but I know enough to know that I'm doing this. I'm trying to bring you into the loop and say, I did this, we did this, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I think we should do it for you next, which we actually did. Second policy was on my now wife.
What did that timeline look like from engagement to her getting a policy or whatever?
Yeah, so I actually went back and looked because someone asked me this, and I'm so bad at the timetable. So I actually went back and looked, and it was 11 months, actually. 11 months from first one to second one. But of course, in that time frame, I had lots to do. So I was engaged in May, got married in October, honeymoon, stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. Which makes me feel a little better because I'm like, why in the world did I wait? But then I was Looking back, I was probably preoccupied with some things that needed even money, I just remember the conversations and I had a roommate at the time. I was when I got engaged, I was living in an apartment with a buddy from high school, college. So we had lots of conversations together, and it was a lot of, I do not know everything, but I'm really excited about this. I think you should look at it. Mm-hmm. So he looked at it with me, and of course we're reading everything wrong and stuff like that. We don't, but I'm excited. I remember overhearing him once. He then called his dad about it and was like, I think you should look at this. I'm pretty sure it works this way from what I can see. And things like that. So everything was positive, no real negative things. Our family's not a type of family where we talk to the parents about money. That's not how we grew up. So no call to mom or dad or anything like that. That's what I remember from the early days.
Okay. I think that, again, going back to how we saw this, who from, what that setting was like, I felt excitement as well. I felt certainty of this being good, and I was paying attention and asking questions and had follow-up calls and all that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
So I was learning and vetting things for myself, but I still think that that's so interesting, both the setting that different people see infinite banking in, because people are exposed to it in a very different way nowadays, and we reach people in a very different way nowadays than maybe how we saw it. But then also, I don't know how strongly it is with everybody else. I don't know about everybody else, but that strong desire to share it right away, it was there for me as well.
Yep.
Friends and family and having conversations because I was excited about it. So I can feel you on that. All right. So you talked about how you use the policy in the beginning. Anything else that you would say then about what you've done in your private family banking system since, how you use policies, how you've added more policies, when, just anything to flesh that out?
Absolutely. So the cool part is that I got started with infinite banking as a young person before I had put lots of money into other plans and programs. So, meaning, did I have a 401k through the bank and through the insurance company? Yes, but my 401k had 4 digits in it, not 5. Did I have a Roth IRA because someone recommended Roth IRAs at some point in that process to me? Yes, but my Roth IRA had 4 digits in it, not 5 or 6. So learning about infinite banking and making the transition from some of those other places where I wanted to put money to wanting to put it into the infinite banking policies was relatively easy for me because I was just getting started with these things. So when I learned some of the basic principles about the infinite banking concept, I just started to realize I'd rather put my money here. Like, I get to choose, right? This year, there's a $7,000 contribution limit into Roth IRAs. Now, back, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to use one or not, I guess we could go back and look, but I bet you it was a little under 7,000 if today's 7,000, right? So me saying, well, I need to put the money there. I'm already doing it. I'm just getting started. Or I have this new option that was introduced to me that has pages that they send to your email or to your mailbox that have the word guaranteed on top, was just easier for me to go, I'll choose this one, right? Because I'm just getting started anyway. Like, let's figure this one out. This one's got guaranteed on the top of the page. So that was kind of easy. But as far as what I've used infinite banking policies for, I use them for all sorts of things. And so what's really cool about that in my process is that I can relate to a lot of people who want to do that first thing or that second thing when they get started, because I've done it. So I still have my very first debt payoff plan that was created for me when I started my infinite banking policies in order to pay off my debt. I still have it to this day.
Isn't that neat to look back on?
It is. It's fun. And I'm like, man, I still would have had some of those, actually, if I didn't pay them off.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild. I'm like, that's been gone for years. Thank you. But like I mentioned before, I got engaged after starting infinite banking. I got married. I bought my first house. I've bought more than just that first car. I probably have bought 5 cars since I started infinite banking 10 years ago. 5 cars probably. I've had 3 children in that time. I've used infinite banking for all of those things. I've gone on vacation, right? My wife and I like to travel, so we've gone to Europe once or twice in there. Or again, we've gone to Florida and took the kids there too. I mean, we've done all of those things. We have to use money to accomplish those things. So I'm just always going back to my policy to use the money. I now have kids. My oldest is 7 years old, who I want to teach about money principles. So when he throws the ball in the living room and shatters the television, guess what I get to do? Well, 1, we get to have a conversation about don't throw balls in the house. You already knew that. So you don't break TVs.
Sure.
Right? We get to instill some learning opportunities for him. And we say, great, you've got to do your chores like normal, but now you owe the money back to the family because you broke the TV. My son did that 2-3 weeks in a row. I'm so proud of him as a 6-year-old that he's doing this. He's 7 now, but as a 6-year-old, he's doing this. We waive the debt, right? Then we teach him how to use the policy. We're going to go replace the TV. So I get to do so many things now because I've got more than one policy. I started myself first, my now wife second. As the kids came, we started those policies. Over time, we were able to do business-owned policies and stuff like that because I've been evolving as a person from the time that I started. I didn't own a business when I started my infinite banking policies. Well, now I do, and so the business owns policies, of course, right? Where else would I put the money? Why would I earn money as a business and then have to go? It's the same principle. Then I have to go spend it, and then I worked hard to earn it, and then it's gone. So I don't like doing that. So we start policies, and we keep it there. So, man, those are just a couple things that I've done. Of course, I'm just progressing. So lately I've been doing like lending. We teach this. Become your own banker. Banks lend money. I've done some lending, which I think is really cool. I first started, my very first lending thing was in 2021. I know that because I looked at it this morning or last night. 2021 is when I first started lending. Well, it's 2025 now, so I've been lending for 4 years all of a sudden. And it seems like I just started and I'm just learning how to do it. And then you go back and you go, oh, I've done like 10 different deals, and this wouldn't have been possible. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have been introduced to the idea to people who knew I had cash value to lend. I wouldn't have done any of that without infinite banking. So it's really cool.
Well, I'll tell you the one quote that's been echoing in my mind more than once now, just listening in our conversation, and that's the Warren Buffett quote about rule number 1.
Yep.
Don't lose money.
Don't lose money.
You're that guy.
Yep.
don't lose.
I don't like losing it.
Right. Okay. So, business-owned policies, that's a great topic that you brought up. So it doesn't matter if we're talking to folks who just run a household, right? Because we're husbands and have families and these things. Doesn't matter if we're talking to business owners. Doesn't matter if we're talking to investors. So you've done all these things personally, but you're a professional in the space. So I'm saying all that to say retirement, I feel like, is one thing I'd like to ask you a bit more about.
Okay.
But maybe you'd like to do that at the right point in your timeline. So when did you transition from just personally implementing infinite banking to being a professional in the space, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so that happened around the end of 2017, second half of 2017, I should say. And it's a funny story how it happened, but basically I am a self-proclaimed nerd. I like to, not in the traditional sense, I guess, right? Glasses and high pants and whatever, looking like Steve Urkel.
I mean,
not,
you have
not
glasses,
that.
don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I wear them.
Okay.
But I read things. That's what I do. I don't know if nerd is even the right idea. Here's what I really mean to say. I read things that other people don't normally read.
You know what jumps in my mind when you say that?
Yeah.
I had a Sunday school, I think it was Sunday school teacher said this the other day. Like, there are some dads that when they get the box of the Christmas present, the instructions get thrown over their shoulder and they go to. Maybe it goes good, maybe it doesn't. Some read just enough to be dangerous and get going. So are you maybe that third category that reads the whole thing? And
so I don't prolong the Christmas gift opening toy playing to read it.
Right.
But I'm more like a next day. I read the whole thing.
Right.
Like
that's
what
I'm saying.
So I know all that. I don't know how to get it to do this. I do know because I read the instructions. So like, no, you hit this button and that button. Like I read the thing. You didn't read it. You wanted to play so bad, but I read it. So I know how to do it.
Okay.
So that's just who I am. And so, man, I don't even know if I remember your question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, going from personal implementation to professional.
Okay,
so
cool.
you're the guy that knows the details.
So I read it. And so what happened actually is the gentleman or gentleman partner type thing that introduced us to infinite banking needed help launching an infinite banking business. And my brother's pretty good at marketing, and so asked my brother for some help. How did he even know my brother? Well,
he's
because
great.
we were.
I understand it's hard for you to say.
We were doing.
He's great. He's great. He's a great
we were
marketer.
doing because we were in infinite banking. It's how this guy even knew who we were. So then he says, "Oh, we know that you're good at marketing. Let me come down and ask you some questions." And of course, my brother, being the big brother that he is, says, "Jonah, get down here. They need help launching an infinite banking business. You know stuff. I know enough to know that you know because I know that you probably read things I didn't read. Get down here." And really the rest is history. He said he was looking for someone who had a background in insurance and that owned a policy and that was ready to go right away because I need help. I'm actually starting my infinite banking branch and business tomorrow, and that's who I'm looking for. It would be really helpful if they worked with us in my last agency before so they know like kind of what we like to do. And I fit all of their criteria, and I'm sitting at the dinner table trying to eat a slice of pizza. So I'm like, I'll do that. right? And it was scary at first because this is brand new and I don't know this guy and he doesn't live in my town. And he asked me to do things right out of the gate that I was like, do I know how to do this? I don't think I know how to do this, but that's my personality. Learn how to do it. Work hard, like we talked about before. Work hard, read the instructions, that sort of thing. And that's what I did over and over and over again for a lot of different people. And then it's probably, that's 2017, so probably 2018, 2019. At some point, I realized, hold on a second, I know at some point, people started asking questions, and I no longer had to look up the answer or call for an answer or ask somebody.
I'm sure I was that person at different times.
I just knew the answer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the last person asked me that. Here's exactly how you do it. And at some point, I went, oh, my goodness, I think I know infinite banking, right? It got to the point, they talk about this sometimes, when you know something, you know something well when you can teach it. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where I was drumming up my own examples and illustrations in my own head because I was going, they're not going to get it if I say it like this. Let me say it like this and think of this cool illustration so you get it. And it was about that time that I realized, oh, that's how you know something, when I can say, think about your front yard for a second. Put some cups in there. Here's where the money goes. Here's where it comes out. And people are going, oh, finally, that really helped me. And after enough of those, you go, oh, I think I might have it, right? So then after that, of course, we went and got certifications and all that fun stuff to make sure we actually knew it and wasn't just in our heads. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been cool for me along the way because, again, we started just by being friends, sharing the personal aspects of implementing the concept. But I've seen you, a commanding educational presence from the front of a room or one-on-one phone calls, Zoom calls with people. So it's just been really neat altogether. What would you like to say then about what you're doing now?
Yeah.
What things look like today, where you're going, anything?
Yeah, I love it. So one of the biggest things that I'm doing is still growing. That's really important to me. Believe it or not, if you would have known me really intimately and personally when I first got started with infinite banking, there was very little growth in me. I was a 21, 22, 23-year-old with a girl I really, really liked. It was a lot of Xbox and a lot of talking to her. That's what it was. And I realized somewhere along the way that no, I don't know. It's just not what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn. I'm going to keep moving. Because the people that I look up to keep learning and keep moving. And they do really cool things. And I like really cool things. But I'm not going to be able to get those really cool things or have those really cool things or experience those really cool things if I stay. I'm going to have to keep asking. So I gotta move so I can do that stuff too. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I do today. Even this year's new for me because I normally keep to myself. And but instead this year I've got a little New Year's resolution, I guess you could call it, to not only read things but talk about how that applies to my life on social media. So I'm making posts and talking about books that I read, which is new. That part is new, telling people, because normally I just stay to myself. But learning is where I'm going. I'm going to keep moving, going to keep learning. In the insurance space, helping people with infinite banking, you can get a lot of letters after your name. So that's a second half of the year resolution. I'm going to put a couple acronyms in my email signature. I think that'll be kind of fun. Plus, again, it gives me the opportunity to keep learning. They're going to teach me something I don't know, right? So I'm going to keep learning. And of course, I help people every single day with the infinite banking concept. That's the bread and butter of what I love to do, what I'm good at, actually. After all this time working at the bank and helping people with home insurance, what I'm best at is helping people implement the infinite banking concept. So do that every day. Talk to somebody, text somebody, email somebody, make a video for somebody out there about the infinite banking concept.
So go ahead and tell people then where they can find you.
Yeah. So if you want to find me, you can visit thebankingbros.com. Thebankingbros.com. It's actually me and my brother on that website. You'll find us both. I'm Jonah. He's Jeremiah, even though we probably sound the same over the phone. But thebankingbros.com is where you'll find us. If you like social media, The Banking Bros. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. That's where we are.
Love it. Love it. So I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I've got my rapid fire questions. Well, anything else that you'd like to share? Anything that I didn't ask that you wish I had of, or anything that you think people would appreciate that I maybe haven't thought of in the moment?
What I tell the people listening or watching, that if you want to hear more from me, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Say, let's do another episode of part 2. Ask a specific question, and I'll come back and answer it. I'll walk you through whatever makes you feel good or makes that you want to know. So just let me know, and I'll do that.
Yeah, I thought you've definitely brought up a couple already. The business implications, investing, passive income, because I don't guess you've decided to do any of those 401ks or IRAs or whatever stuff since then. So
I did not.
You feel like you're on to something important, obviously.
I think so. So looking to get the passive income to a pretty big number. Right now, it's a decent number, which I like. But I want it to be a little higher, so we got to keep moving. We got to keep learning. We got to see what the next guy's doing or what he can offer, what he can teach us, so we can keep going. Right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I love being around that kind of mindset myself. Yeah. Let's jump in on these.
All right.
Rapid fire question.
I got rapid fire answers.
Give me that most recent favorite book then, or podcast. You've been talking about reading books recently. Yep. Most recent favorite one.
Yeah, so I read The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. That was my first book of 2025. Really, really, really appreciated it. I read a few books since then, which keep reminding me of that one. So I think I'm going to say that one's my favorite. I'm about to reread The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team that I really like as well. But something's telling me it's going to be The Slight Edge until somebody beats Jeff Olson out.
Okay, love it. How about one of the most impactful quotes or sayings?
Most impactful quotes or saying. I always like this one. People only say half of it a lot of times. The quote is attributed to Abraham Lincoln. It's good things come to those who wait. Most of the time, that's where people end. That is not the end of the quote. The whole quote is good things come to those who wait, but only what's left over to those who hustle. And I think Abe Lincoln mic dropped with that one.
I could not have said the second half from memory for sure.
Yep.
I've heard it now that you said it, but I couldn't have said it from memory.
Honest Abe.
How about who is the most impactful person, or you could say one of the most impactful people in your lives, and why?
Sure. It's a good question. This one's a tough answer. I could give you a couple different answers in a couple different areas, but I'll give you the answer of the infinite banking space. And that person's probably Brent Kessler. And the reason that he is really impactful to me is because I feel like he believed in my ability to help people with infinite banking before I believed it myself. So he spoke that into existence almost, spoke it into me to believe it. You can do it. You're knowledgeable. You should do it. Gave me opportunities to do it because he believed I could well before I thought that I was good enough, well-spoken enough to do it. So
that probably speaks to us both as parents even now. That's another context that I think about that type of example in, right? Like we want to create those types of opportunities for our children as well, speak that into them as well. That's good, man. I'm glad I asked that one. Sunrise or sunset?
It's going to be a sunset for me. Sunrise, the way these kids get up in the morning, it's going to be a sunset for me. Plus, we love to hang with the kids. Love to hang with the kids. But sunset actually means right now, because of my kids' ages, that I get to spend time with my wife shortly. So it's going to be sunset for me.
I love it. Beach or mountains?
I'm a mountain guy. I have been to the beach 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times in my life and never touched the water. I don't appreciate that. Mountains for me.
You have never touched?
No. I have touched the oceans, but I'm saying I have actually stepped on the beach in sand minimum 10 times,
not gone as far
and
as
not
to
touched the water. Yeah, don't care.
See, I'd be the opposite. I would be. If I'm at the beach, I'm not reading a book in the sand. I am in the water.
Happy to be on the beach.
Interesting. See, this is insightful to me. What's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
This is a good question. All right, let me think here. Well, I will tell you, I don't know if I can say the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, but the piece of advice that resonates with me the most right now is actually advice that I hear my wife give our kids. And even though she's given it to the 6, 7-year-old and 4-year-old and 1-year-old, every time she says it, it hits me. And she tells them that actions have consequences. Choices have consequences. She says it over and over and over. because they do things and they think it's fine, and you know everyone else in the house is crying and they're like it's fine, you know, it's not fine. And every time she does that, I think it through, because whether you're trying to do something good for somebody or you're doing something that you think is indifferent, whatever you did has a consequence. I'm not saying the word consequence like it's bad. I'm saying Newton's law, right? Every action has a opposite and equal reaction, whatever the quote is, right? What you do today impacts tomorrow. It impacts that person. Whether you're just saying hi at the grocery store, whatever it is, it has a consequence. It has a reaction. And that's one of the things that I've been like thinking about lately. Like everything you do impacts somebody. It has a consequence. So pay attention to that as you make your decisions.
I love that you use that just because of where it came from. I know that I, as a father, certainly can't say anything nowadays to my children in an encouraging way, trying to encourage them that's not convicting back at me.
It's tough when you try to teach somebody else and you're like, oh, steak.
Immediately in your own head.
Steak. I got to make sure I'm good on that one.
All right, let me give you, this is my last rapid fire question, and it's from my children.
Okay, I'm ready.
Sitting around the table, and they asked me one day, would you rather be able to breathe underwater or fly?
I'm going to go fly because I don't like the water like that.
You don't want to touch the water.
Yeah. So I'm going to fly. And if you ask me one more, fly or invisibility, I'm still taking fly. Invisibility means you're trying to do stuff you shouldn't do. Fly. So I can just get there faster.
We just got...
That's what it means, right?
A whole new... Yes.
Every time someone says invisibility, I'm like, what are you trying to do that you need to be invisible for?
Yes. I mean, I could see the people jumping right in there saying element of surprise, you know, doing good out there.
No. I'd much rather get somewhere. I want to get somewhere super fast. Fly for sure.
Okay, awesome. Man, this has been a lot of fun for me. Thanks. I know what it means for you to carve this out of your schedule, being in business, family, home life, and everything, but I do appreciate it.
No problem.
Awesome. Guys, make sure to do what Jonah said. If you got a question, you got a comment, something you'd like seen discussed about infinite banking that would be helpful to you, put that in the comment section below. You can find Jonah at all of his handles on all of the platforms. Make sure to do that. My encouragement to you is that you learn to live and leave a lasting legacy. Hope you have a great day. Take care.